You don't see this on the news, okay? They're not reporting this. The numbers of people that get sick because of the vaccine, nobody is talking about us. What's good people? I want to share this story not to bash or speak negatively about the vaccine, the COVID vaccine. I want to share this story because I want to inform you. It is not to speak against, it is to speak out. What happened to my son and I as a result of the COVID vaccine. If you know me, then you know I stand for telling my story, living my truth, sharing my journey so that I can heal my soul. So, let the healing begin. So also, before I start, I would like to give a very special thanks to a beautiful young woman that doesn't even know that her words encouraged me so much on yesterday. Right when I was about to say, no, I'm feeling so much better. My son and I are on the mend. To God be the glory. And I'm just going to leave it alone. And then her encouraging words were, once you complete your video, please send it to me. I'd like to support. Not only was she encouraging, but she was saying so many people don't know any of the side effects to the vaccine, which are not being spoken about, which are not being shared. Because of the urgency and the need for people to get the vaccine, half of the truth is not being told. I just want to thank that young lady, and she knows who she is. Because for a moment, I got ready to be silenced again. But not now. Not now. And let me say to everyone that has got the vaccine, whichever one you got, and you had no issues and you had no concerns and it was a great experience for you, good for you. Good for you. If that was your experience, good for you. It was not mine. It definitely wasn't my son's. And we are not going to continue to pretend and to be silent and say, oh, what happened to us is okay because we don't want to be negative. It's not about being negative. It's about being informed. It's about telling the truth. My intent is to be as transparent and crystal clear as I can be concerning the incidents that happened after we took the COVID-19 Pfizer vaccine. I want to be as crystal clear and I want to be as transparent with what happened to my son and myself. Okay? And so that before we get started, okay, let me make sure that you understand that we were not pre-exposed. Let's say that. Let's get that out there. From all of the friends that we have, the family that we have, those circles are small still. We're not partying. I'm not out in parties, okay? Let's get that clear. I'm not even at church services right now. Let's be completely clear. Okay, who I am around is a small, selective group of people. Okay, let's also be clear on my son who is special needs. So his circle is small. We have not traveled outside of the city. Not one time. Not one time. So we are not getting ready to be the reason why we were sick, because during this entire pandemic, we have never contracted COVID. Never. We have never been exposed to someone with COVID. Never. We wear our mask out in public even now. Before the vaccine. After the mask mandate was lifted, we still wear our mask. In my car, I keep sanitizer pump. I keep Clorox wipes on my door, okay? We have Lysol spray in the car. And we also have gloves. Now, we don't wear gloves because, in my opinion, wearing the gloves, you have to be extra specially careful not to cross-contaminate, okay? So it is best to just keep your hands away from your face and then make sure that your hands stay clean and sanitized. We've lived that way on purpose throughout this whole entire pandemic and not been ill. Not once. Not once. Not only have we not been ill, again, our circles are small. Okay? So when people try to say to me, well, you must have been exposed before you got the vaccine, that's when I almost want to slap your face. Seriously. Punch you in your nose. We have not been exposed, pre-exposed. That don't even make sense. So you managed to stay COVID-free this entire time, go get a vaccine, and now you're COVID. Excuse me? Try that again with somebody else. I'm not having it. Make up those lies. I don't care. CDC, I don't care. I don't care. I know what happened to me. And I clearly know what happened to my son. So before we get into this video, I have to make sure that you understand my stance on what happened to me. Because I've been in this body for 53 years. I got 53 years and a half in this body. So I know how my body feels. I know when I'm sick. As you can see, I've had open heart surgery. I know my body. I know when I'm not well. June 30th, 2021. I was well. I was fine. I was good. There was nothing wrong with me. Nothing. I know my son. He's 30 years old. I'm his mother. I have been his constant caregiver his entire life. There was nothing wrong with us. Period. So get that out there. Let that be the reason. Know that I know that. I'm not crazy, nor am I stupid. We voluntarily took the vaccine at our nearby Walgreens. Voluntarily. There was no pressure from any particular person, but the need and the want to do something, to be proactive and to support the movement of getting vaccinated so that COVID would leave. Yeah, I wanted to do it. I wanted to do that. In my opinion, if I could be part of the solution, then I wanted to be that. So on June the 30th, when we took the vaccine, it was in well intention. I wanted to do this. So we took it. We got the vaccine. That night, not immediately, but that night, I started feeling what I thought was normal symptoms. We had cold chills. We had aches in our bodies. My son was so cold, I put extra blankets on him. We took Tylenol. We took some Mucinex. Okay. Over the next few days, I started developing a cough, and so did my son. So to be proactive again, right? We're doing the Mucinex. We're trying to combat this. I also have a new inhaler, okay? And I had one that wasn't empty that I was no longer using. We started using an inhaler, okay? It opened up my chest airway, okay? And it helped with the cough. But my son, who is special needs, I already told you that, cannot understand the concept of getting the inhaler and the mist to breathe it in his lungs. So the mist was just coming out throughout, over top of the inhaler. He was barely getting any. He might have gotten some, but he wasn't getting the whole dose like I was. So we got the vaccines on June 30th. Okay? Holiday weekend comes. We're home. Understand that. We're home. We're not out at a picnic. No. We didn't go to no family function. We were home. On the 5th day of the month, I decide that my son's cough obviously is worse than mine, and I don't like the way he sounds. We go to the emergency room on July the 5th. On July the 5th, it was a 10-hour wait. But we waited. We waited. When we were called back to a room in the ER, okay, both of us have on tags. I want to be seen, and I want my son to be seen. Let's be clear, okay? My son takes the bed. I sit in the chair. Because, in my opinion, my son was far more worse than I was. I want to be seen, but my concern is for my son. They do a chest x-ray on both of us. On both of us. They start trying to do labs on both of us. Take blood. So for my son, they were able to get his IV going, okay? And they were able to take blood from him on several attempts, but they did. Me, on the other hand, it was not so successful. They tried 3 times. I told them I have collapsing rolling veins. I told them this. I told them it has always been my experience for them to have a vein finder, some device that they can ultrasound my veins so that they can find a good vein to draw blood from. They didn't listen. So on the third attempt of trying to take my blood, they just stopped. Didn't even try anymore. So I got no lab work done. My x-rays came back clear, except my heart was mildly enlarged. What? I've never heard that. Of all the issues that I've heard and had with my heart, for it to have been enlarged, never heard it. My son's x-rays come back. He has double pneumonia. Double. Both lungs infected. That was the moment that I felt the guilt that I've never felt before in my life. Because they had also been able to swab my son. He was COVID positive. How? The only thing that we've done is take the vaccine. I can't tell you the amount of disappointment, hurt, guilt, all of that flooded me instantaneously. I signed us up to get the vaccine. I drove us over to get the vaccine, and I allowed this to happen to us. And now my son is so ill, he can't hold his head up. After learning that my son was COVID positive and that his lungs were infected, both of his lungs were infected, they put him on a breathing treatment. Yeah, they put him on a breathing treatment. And I sat there with him while he was getting the treatment done. Quite a few people were walking in and out while we were getting this breathing treatment. They had decided they were going to release us and send us home with a breathing treatment, with cough syrup and an antibiotic. We went home. That was on the 5th day of July. So on the 6th day of July, I have now called my doctor, I don't know, 3-4 times. I didn't get a response. But I called. I continued to call until the office hours were closed, and I didn't hear anything that day. I was following orders from the ER, giving my son, trying to give him this breathing treatment again because of his developmental skills, okay? Because of his non-developmental skills, he was still having a tough time on the breathing machine. Just the concept of inhaling the medicine just wasn't connecting for him. I tried to do everything. Medicine, I was successful with the medicine part, but not the breathing treatment. This is on day 6. Excuse me. On July the 7th at 8 o'clock in the morning, approximately, my doctor called me. He apologized because he realized that he had forgot to call me on the day before he left the office. When he asked what was going on and what was my son's status, and I told him, he said, "You guys should have never left the hospital. I'm going to go ahead and direct admit him." Okay. Because the hospital that we were going to stay, the hospital that we went to the ER in, was so busy and didn't have any available rooms and had people in the ER that had been admitted with no place to go yet. Excuse me. He sent us to another hospital. Okay. So I got us up and ready to go. He told me exactly where we were going, and my motivation was to get there as quickly as possible. So I got my son up. I told him to get dressed. He showered or he washed or whatever he did, got himself together. I got myself together. I packed some things because I knew we were going to be admitted. Okay. However, I'm not being admitted, just my son. Okay. Our physical status is at that time hasn't changed. We're still sick. We're still achy. Okay. I'm not running a temperature. My son is running a temperature. And it is hard to communicate how he feels. He just says, I don't feel good. Okay. We're barely eating because we have no appetite. My son is also throwing up. Anything that he eats, he throws up. We get to the hospital. The admitting clerk was fine. She didn't make us feel any kind of way. She didn't treat us badly. She treated us like I'm sure she treats all people that need to be admitted into the hospital. That was the first person that day and the only person that day that was kind to us. So we got up on the floor and they showed us our room. Well, we knew where our room was and we were escorted to our room. And when our nurse came in to see us, she acted like it was her first day on the job. For real. She didn't offer my son any hospital gowns at all. So my son basically got into the bed in his street clothes, what he wore in from home. She didn't say, well, I'm going to get you some gowns or anything like that. She never offered. He later put on pajamas that we bought in from home. She was really unorganized, okay? And it felt like she didn't want to help us, you know? And you know when someone wants to help you and when they don't, okay? It's just an energy. Over the next few days, my son, who is so ill, cannot feed himself. Everything that he was experiencing broke my heart because it wasn't much that I could do for him because I wasn't feeling good either. Oh, Lord have mercy. While we were in the hospital, you guys, not one time did they come and change his sheets. Not one time did they empty the trash. Not one time did housekeeping come until I had to say something. Stuff was all over the floor. And I'm talking about stuff like when the nurses come in to do labs or put a Band-Aid or whatever, all that paper, all that junk went to the floor and it stayed to the floor. And so it started to become an eyesore for me. And I was like, this is not appropriate. Are we not allowed to have housekeeping? The first 2 days, they didn't even ask him what he wanted to eat. They just bought something up, anything. I can't tell you how many workers that I talked to, nurses assistants, you name it, that told me flat out, straight up, I will not get that vaccine. I will not get that vaccine. So you guys, our room was eventually cleaned. Okay. Although my son at that point was an active COVID patient, we should still be treated respectfully. Since I had not been tested for COVID, and I knew I had to be, I knew I was positive. There's no way it couldn't have been any other outcome. So my doctor had put in orders for me to have a test, but the hospital would not issue me a test because I was not a patient. And the only way that I could get a COVID test there was to go down to the ER and they would administer the test there. And the best time of day they told me to go would be between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. And this is to a woman that is barely walking herself at that time. So on my son's second day in the hospital, after the doctor had came in and told us what we were dealing with still, and after I knew that I could get out for a few minutes, a few hours, and go do that. So I left him there. And let me say this too before. On his first day there, they had to immediately put him on oxygen as his levels were dropping dramatically. Okay. So on the second day, they had taken him off of the oxygen. Okay. Because his levels were up and they were stable. So I picked my time and I left the hospital. I was in contact with no one. No one. I drove myself home. I took a shower. Okay. I did change my sheets while I was here. I did change my son's sheets while I was here. It took me maybe an hour or a little more just to change the sheets on both of our beds. I took a shower that took about another 30 minutes. Mind you, before I came home, masked, I went to the immediate care near my home. And they told me that it was going to be a 4-hour wait. So I knew I had time once I came home. And rather than rush, I just allowed myself, if I needed to sit between putting pillow slips in, I sat. If I needed to sit a little longer, then I took my time. Right before I was about to leave to go get my COVID test, I got a text message that they had pushed my time back an additional hour. So I had time. I sat and waited. And I waited. And then I finally went to the immediate care. I finally had my COVID swab. My results came back. I was COVID positive, which I knew. I had already packed more things that we needed. So I went immediately, stayed in my mask, hands clean. I went only into the hospital. I went only into the elevator, didn't touch anything, wiped everything off, sanitized my hands on and off the elevator, and went back in the room with my son. The following morning, mind you, I am sleeping in a hard surfaced reclining chair that is not like the chairs that I have here. Not like a chair that you typically think of, a recliner. No, it's not that. But that's what I slept in for 3 nights. Sick as a dog. But nevertheless, it wasn't about me. It was always about my son. Artist did begin to feel a little better. He was able then to start feeding himself, and he was holding his food down. His temperature stopped, and I told you he was off oxygen, and he was starting to feel better. And the mama bear in me at that moment rested knowing that my son was going to be fine. The morning that we were getting ready to leave, there was a nurse. And I didn't know how she was going to move, or her behavior, her personality. She was not very talkative. And through our hospital stay, honestly, I counted about 8 people that had came in and sat down and talked with me. Healthcare professionals that began to share with me how many cases they had in the hospital as we were in the hospital. Active COVID patients that had been vaccinated. Yes. Shared with me their stories of being COVID positive, having to work. Let me just say, I'm skipping around. Forgive me for jumping. There's so many things in my mind. I had one young lady, very young lady, who told me that they had been told, workers at the hospital, frontline workers, throughout this entire pandemic have put their lives on the line. But they had been told if they, in fact, contracted COVID and were not vaccinated, they would not have their sick time paid for. But if they were vaccinated and they caught COVID, their sick time would be paid. Now you tell me if that is not the biggest, ugliest form of bullying. So you push your vaccine and you apply pressure, because that's what that young lady told me. She said, I feel the pressure every day to become vaccinated. But she says, right now, I'm standing my ground. So to fast forward to the nurse that I didn't know how she was going to, treat us. Because you're at the mercy of these people. and they treat you like you have the plague. She came in and she was doing her labs. And because she was not very talkative, neither was I. And then finally a conversation sparked up, and I don't know who said what, how it got started. But I know there was a moment when she looked at me and she said, and she doesn't know me from Eve. Hold on. She said to me, why didn't you stick to your gun? That's what she said to me. And I didn't know what to say back. She looked me right in my eye. And she said, why didn't you stick to your guns? And I started to cry. And I said, I don't know. And she said, I haven't gotten this vaccine. I don't trust it. She says, and neither has my son. And then she said to me, my son's father has already passed. So if I take this vaccine and I get sick and die, who's going to be there for my son? Okay. I'm going to finish this real quick. Here's a word of caution. If you are on the fence, if you are thinking about getting this vaccine, you're going to have to do a little bit more than just talk to a few friends that got it and they're fine, because that might not be your case. That clearly was not ours. All of my friends that have taken the vaccine were fine. I don't know if because my son takes other medications, okay, because he is schizophrenic, because he has autism, so he takes a daily regimen already of prescribed medicine. So I don't know if the prescribed medicine counterreacted against the vaccine. I have no idea. All that I know, we were not sick before the vaccine, and then we got sick once we took the vaccine. That's all I know. That's it. That's all. That's what happened. Do what you think is best, but make sure you understand what happened to us. And we are on the mend. We are miraculously, thank you, God, we are on the mend. We have about another week to quarantine. We have a doctor's appointment next Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We are on the mend. Thank you, God, for constantly being a fence. But guys, you've got to know your own for yourself. You've got to know for yourself. Don't just go by. Everybody's getting the vaccine, waving their little vaccine banners around, right? I'm vaccinated. I got my vaccine. So I got a vaccine too and then got COVID. Excuse me? I don't see a flag for that. I'ma go, cause yeah, I'll be back happier, healthier. I couldn't live though and not tell it. I had to share it. Somebody got to tell the truth. I'll talk to y'all later. Make sure you keep your heads up and your eyes open. Stay woke out here, y'all. Stay woke. Bye for now.